Welcome everyone! In this video, we are going to be diving into my top 5 best teams for the Ultra League. Ultra League is set to drop later on today at the normal times that leagues typically reset, and it should be, it's Ultra. It's the Ultra League. It'll be running alongside the Psychic Cup, so always nice to have a second option. But for those of us who will be participating in the Ultra League, I want to give you guys some solid teams. Not too many changes. The Ultra League meta hasn't really shifted very much at all, really. So pretty standard picks that we will see, but we've got 5 teams here that will set you up for having the most success if you so choose to roll with the Ultra League. So without further ado, let's dive right into team number 1. All right, my friends, here we go. Team number 1, very powerful team for the Ultra League. It leads with Trevenant on the lead, Reggie Steele on the safe swap, and Tapu Fini in the back to close the game strong. This is a very balanced team, which means that you can really run these in any order. Any order works just fine. It really depends on your elo, what you're seeing a lot of on the lead. But Trevenant is generally very good on the lead in just about all circumstances. You could also safe swap Tapu Fini if you're making a hard team read. But this team, very flexible, very powerful for the Ultra League. Let's have a look at the scorecard here. And not bad at all. Very, very good scorecard for team number 1. You get an A for coverage, B for bulk. Trevenant has that effect on the bulk score, I must say. A for safety and a B for consistency. So very good and solid overall for team number 1. Let's dive into these matchups. So as I mentioned, Trevenant, very strong and reliable on the lead, although there will be some issues that you can encounter. Most notably, Pidgeot and just about every other flyer in the meta. So a lot more people are now building their Pidgeots because it's actually ranked number 2 overall, which I think it's good, but I don't think it's that good. Pidgeot is a bit of a simulation warrior, which means that it stands out in the simulations, but in practice can fall a bit flat at times. So take that with a grain of salt, but that does not mean that they will not be out and about, which is very likely the case. Like I said, a lot more people have built Pidgeots for the Ultra League because it is good on the right team. And if you were to encounter one on the lead, you are not staying in there whatsoever. That is a nightmare lead. If Noctowl in the Great League is Trevenant's worst nightmare, Pidgeot in the Ultra League will have that same effect. So you're going to go into Tapu Fini and look to do what you can from there. They're likely going to want to maintain that alignment on the Trev, so whatever they meet you with, try your very best to flip that. Because ideally you would obviously want your Reggie Steele on that Pidgeot if you can flip switch with Tapu Fini. And same goes for Gliscor. Gliscor is actually much more of a threat to this team than Pidgeot is, as Tapu Fini has some solid play up against Pidgeot, and so does Reggie Steele. Reggie Steele obviously shuts it out, but Gliscor, Reggie Steele does not have very much play against that either, because Gliscor, with that very unique ground flying typing, is resisting your conventional charge moves. So that's going to take a team effort. If you get hit with a Gliscor lead, they're not common, I will say that. That I do know. You generally see them tucked in the back, but on the lead, it's very tricky. You're going to have to tag team it between Trevenant and Tapu Fini. Try your best. If you're really skilled and confident in your counts, the best play would be to chip and dip. You do tank a Night Slash. It's not stab, and if it's a non-shadow, it's not going to hit you that hard. If it's a shadow, you'll still survive it. But try and chip and dip. Hit that thing. Try and get off. You can go Seed Bomb. It's not going to do that much because Gliscor is very bulky in the Ultra League. So you'll definitely want to get off that Shadow Ball. Like I said, you'll have to tank a non-stab Night Slash, but you do survive it, especially in the Ultra League where everything is a lot more bulkier. And you'll want to try and either grab a shield or chip, do some massive damage with the Shadow Ball, and try and catch the second Night Slash onto your Tapu Fini, if at all possible. But either way, you're only going to want to stick around to get off that Shadow Ball. You'll either grab a shield or grab a lot of health, and then you're going to want to try and set up catch or just make the play in the Tapu Fini outright. and play on from there. That's just a rough lead. Quite brutal, to be honest. Charizard, again, a lot more manageable, much like Pidgeot is, as both your back two Pokemon can do quite well against Charizard. Registeel actually beats Charizard in the 2 and the 1. Yeah, you're not so bad off. The fire flying type that you have to be concerned with Reggie is actually Talonflame, believe it or not, because Talonflame is applying that heavy fast move pressure. But that's one that you can actually mess around with a little bit. Charizard, you're not messing around at all. It's just awful for you. They just outright outpace you. There's not a whole lot you can do. So Charizard, you're out of there in the Tapu Fini. Or Registeel, actually, you can go into Registeel. Either one works, really. Registeel does beat Charizard in the 2s and the 1s. But Talonflame, you're going to want to get off that big Shadow Ball. They can tank it, and they may actually tank it because they're going to want to get off a Flame Charge. You're not going to want to tank that. You're going to want to throw your Shadow Ball and then immediately catch on to Tapu Fini. That's how I would play Talonflame, because it takes them 15 turns to get to their first Flame Charge, and it only takes you 14. It takes 1 turn to swap out. So the way to play that perfectly, go build up to your Shadow Ball, throw it, and then immediately swap into Tapu Fini to catch that Flame Charge, provided they throw on alignment. They generally do, but as you get higher and higher in Elo, you may want to make the read that they may throw a 4th, not wanting to throw on alignment, and then you can time it accordingly as well. It would just be 2 Shadow Claws and catch. So that's how I'd play Talonflame on the lead, but they're few and far in between. Charizard is all but replaced Talonflame as the flying fire type of choice in the Ultra League, but they may still be around. Everything else pretty straightforward with Trevenant. Giratina, I wanted to touch on a little bit. If it's Dragon Breath Tina, you can immediately go into your Registeel safe swap and look to play on from there. If it's Shadow Claw, believe it or not, that's a little bit different. You're going to want to really put the pressure on and grab either a shield or a lot of health with the threat of the Shadow Ball before making the play into your Registeel safe swap. So that's how I would approach either variation of Giratina. Dragon Breath, you're out immediately. Shadow Claw, you're chipping and dipping. That's how I would play that, and everything else pretty straightforward. I like the Trev lead. Handles a lot of the most common leads that you'll see in the Ultra League, that being handles the Tapu Fini leads, handles the Swamperts, handles the Cressalias, Cobalions, Reggies. You have a lot of play up against Giratina as well. You're just really hard swapping out on those flyers and the Obstagoons. Even something like a Scrafty, you can play around with, chip away with a Seed Bomb, and then look to catch a foul play onto Tapu Fini and play on from there. So a lot of flexibility, a lot of solid play with Trev on the lead. But like I said, this team is very flexible. It's a balanced team. You can run it in any order that you're comfortable with, and any order that suits what you're seeing a lot of at your specific Elo. So that is team number 1. Trevenant on the lead, Reggie on the safe swap, and Tapu Fini in the back. And with all that said, let's have a look at team number 2. All right, guys, here we go. Team number 2, another strong and solid team for the Ultra League. It leads with Regirock on the lead, Cresselia on the safe swap, and Trevenant in the back to close the game strong. This is a very powerful team, and it comes in response to all of the Pidgeot leads that may be out and about in the Open Ultra League. Regirock, probably one of the top 3 best answers to basically any flyer minus Gliscor, I would say. Regirock has a lot of play. It can actually even beat Registeel, I believe, in the 2s and the 1s, and that's because you win CMP tie, and you will get off that Focus Blast. You will have the ability to get that off first. So Regirock, a lot of strong play in the Ultra League. And we've got 2 anti-fighters in the back. Cresselia is on the team to draw out any potential fire type that may be lurking in the back. That will clear the way for Trevenant to do what it does best, and that is close the game strong. And this is one of the few team comps that I would actually consider running Future Sight on Cresselia. I would say there is something to be said for having the ability to fight back against the fire types, because if they have one on their team, you will undoubtedly draw it out with Cresselia. As we all know, fire types are one of the best answers to a Cresselia in this meta. So there is definitely something to be said for having the ability to fight back against those with the future sight. So definitely worth considering on this particular team comp, or in general if you're safe swapping Cresselia. I think future sight does have a place. But let's have a look at this scorecard here. And look at that. That is a very, very strong and solid scorecard for team number 2. You get a B for coverage, A for bulk, A for safety, and an A for consistency. You really don't get much better than that, my friends. Let's have a look at these matchups. So Regirock on the lead has either very good, super effective play or very solid neutral play on the lead, which is why Regirock quite valuable in the meta. Like I said, if you encounter a Registeel, you can play that out, and you will be able to take out a Registeel lead with your Regirock. Just because you win CMP tie, you will be able to get off your Focus Blast first, allowing you to take out a Registeel. Would you believe that? You also have strong neutral play up against the Giratina leads as well, although you're not going to want to stay in there for too long up against the Giratina. You'll kind of want to chip and dip and then make the play into your Cresselia and look to play on from there, provided you're actually running Moonblast on those Giratina leads. If you're not running Moonblast, I think even some chip damage you could still put in work if you run Future Sight. But I think no matter what, you're definitely going to want the Legacy Grass Knot, because Regirock, although very powerful, does not like water types whatsoever. So having the ability on the safe swap to combat those water types with water type coverage is quite valuable. That is one move that you will not want to sacrifice on Cresselia, I will say. But that's how I'd play Giratina leads. Trevenant is going to be your biggest obstacle with this team. Not going to lie. If you're seeing a lot of Trevenant leads, it would be rough to run this team, but you may not. You don't see Trevenant leads too often. They're generally utilized as a closer, but you could. And this team, it takes a team effort, I will say. The way I would play a Trevenant lead is I would chip it. If you're really good, you'll catch the Seed Bomb onto your own Trevenant. It's not likely they'll go for a Shadow Ball, as Seed Bomb allows Trevenant to outpace, and it hits for super effective. So if you're really good with your counts, you can catch that Seed Bomb onto your own Trevenant. That's what I would do. Chip and try and catch the Seed Bomb onto Trev. If you're not as good on your counts, you can tank a Seed Bomb. I do believe Trevenant needs 3 Seed Bombs to KO. 2 and some Shadow Claw damage could get a Trevenant by. They would have to sacrifice a shield. That's how I would play the Trevenant lead. I would not safe swap Cresselia onto a Trev. It's really a team effort between your own Trevenant and your Regirock on a Trevenant lead. Any counter user or any Pokemon that runs a fighting type fast move, you are out of there, and a Cresselia that takes into account Cobalion, Obstagoon, Scrafty, Machamp, Buzzwole, anything that runs. Although Buzzwole's a little bit different because it does take quite a bit of neutral damage from your Stone Edges, so Buzzwole's a little bit of a different scenario. But basically, a good rule of thumb with this team, any Pokemon running a fighting type fast move, you're good to go into Cresselia immediately. Also, any Tapu Fini lead, you're going into Cresselia. Again, you've got 2 amazing water type answers, provided you're running the right move on your Cresselia. That being the Legacy Grass Knot, definitely I think is a must-have. So yeah, pretty straightforward with everything else. Team number 2, very solid and strong. And yeah, leads with Regirock on the lead, Cresselia on the safe swap, and Trevenant in the back to bring it home for you. So that is team number 2, and with all that said, let's have a look at team number 3. All right, guys, here we go. Team number 3, another powerful team for the Ultra League, leading with Giratina on the lead. Altered, that is. Giratina altered. Walrein on the safe swap, and Registeel in the back to close the game strong. So, we do have Shadow Claw on Giratina here. That's just the standard moveset. I will admit, Dragon Breath does have its merits, particularly up against the dark types like Obstagoon, as well as Scrafty. If you see a lot of those and your ELO range on the lead, I would seriously encourage you to run Dragon Breath. I think that's really the only circumstance that you'll want it. You may want it for Pidgeot as well. So if you're seeing a lot of normal or dark types at your ELO on the lead, it might be worthwhile to consider swapping to Dragon Breath. but generally you do want Shadow Claw on it. And Walrein, very strong safe swap. Registeel, about as good of a closer as you can ask for, as with that extreme bulk, performs beautifully when shields are down, making it a very effective closer. Let's have a look at the scorecard here. And identical scorecard to team number 2. Very powerful scorecard here. We get a B for coverage, A for bulk, A for safety, and an A for consistency. Again, you don't get much better than that for a scorecard in the Ultra League. Let's have a look at these matchups. So Giratina, we all know by now, a staple of the Ultra League. It has been for many seasons now. Nothing has really changed. Giratina about as strong as it has ever been. You just have to know your matchups, know your limitations. You're going to have some problems with dark types. Again, if you're seeing the Scrafties or Obstagoons, you're seeing a lot of dark or normals, again, just switch up to Dragon Breath, and that will give you a lot more play against those. But Shadow Claw does have its merits, particularly up against Cresselia leads. It can also allow you to put in work up against the very common Tapu Fini leads as well. So yeah, it really depends on what you're seeing a lot of in terms of what fast move you'll want to run. Pretty straightforward with this team. Giratina is here to protect the back two from the fighters, and Walrein on the safe swap has been to draw those hard counters to Registeel out. And yeah, a very strong team overall. I think the dynamics of this team are pretty straightforward. No need to really hammer too much home here. Let's see if I'm missing anything. I don't think I'm missing too much here. Yeah, this is very... These three Pokemon have been staples in the Ultra League for a long time. The dynamics of the team are pretty simple. You're just hard swapping out on the very hard counters, and you're going to come back in with Giratina, take it out, and play on from there. So very strong and solid team for team number 3. Definitely one I might give a try and feature on the channel. I do like how this team is looking. So yeah, very solid overall. That is Giratina on the lead, Walrein on the safe swap, and Registeel in the back to close the game strong. So that is team number 3. With all that said, let's have a look at team number 4. All right, guys, here we go. Team number 4, a team making its return from Season 13. It was on Season 13's Top 5 Best Teams, and here it is yet again for Season 14. It leads with Pidgeot on the lead, Regirock on the safe swap, and Cobalion in the back to close the game strong. This is a team that I featured on the channel, had a lot of fun with, and it was quite effective. And definitely one I will look to showcase for Season 14, just to give you an updated look at how the team performs. So yeah, very strong team overall. Pidgeot protects the back two from the fighters. And the Trevenants. That's basically how this team is designed to draw out a Trevenant. If your opponent has it on the team, Regirock will undoubtedly draw it out, clearing the way for Cobalion to have a much better time. Because Trevenant's one of the harder checks to Cobalion in the meta. And the back two Pokemon have play up against the Steel types, which Pidgeot really doesn't want to have anything to do with. So let's have a look at the scorecard here. And not bad, pretty solid overall for team number 4. Most importantly, you get an A for coverage. I think that's the most important metric for any team that you build with PvPoke. Getting a solid score in the coverage department, I think, most important above all. And then you get B's across the board, B for bulk, B for safety, and a B for consistency. So very solid for team number 4 here. Let's have a look at these matchups, and holy smokes, Pidgeot beats everything apparently. Holy smokes, look at all those purple X's. That is insane. But like I said, guys, take it with a grain of salt. Pidgeot is a bit of a sim warrior, a simulation warrior, which means that it sims very well. But again, that may not tell the whole story and practice. So in my feature on this team, I showed you guys how to properly play Pidgeot, and again, I'll show you, give you an updated look as well. Takes some getting used to, takes a lot of practice, because you often have to throw a somewhat expensive feather dance to make it work. You're either debuffing your opponent or debuffing yourself with Pidgeot, which can make for a lot of fun or a lot of frustration, depending on your level of experience with the Pokemon. But it does have a lot of very strong matchups in the current meta right now. Pidgeot's very strong. It just wants nothing to do with a steel type. So any steel type, you're going into Regirock, and you're going to, most importantly, try and grab a shield advantage and just look to play on from there with the safe swaps. You could also safe swap Cobalion. Cobalion makes for a very strong safe swap option. It does have flying type coverage if they were to meet you with a flying type, and it can fight back with that neutral damage against Trevenants and Cresselia as well. So, but ultimately, you want to be drawing out the Trevenants with your Regirock because you do outpace to the Stone Edges, which are they hit pretty hard, they have stab, and they are very spammy. So yeah, pretty straightforward with this team. You're only really swapping out on those steel types. Everything else you can hang in there and absolutely terrorize your opponent's existence with Pidgeot. So that is team number 4. Pidgeot on the lead, Regirock on the safe swap, and Cobalion in the back to close the game strong. So with all that said, that is team number 4. Let's have a look at team number 5. And here we go. Last but certainly not least, team number 5. Another very solid team for the Ultra League. We've got Walrein on the lead, Cobalion on the safe swap, and Gliscor in the back to close the game strong. So this team, again, very flexible, relatively balanced for the Ultra League. Walrein on the lead is going to struggle up against the steel types, and we've got 2 amazing steel type answers in the back. All while Walrein can put in work on the lead up against just about everything in the meta. It has very, very good coverage in the meta. Let's have a look at this scorecard here. And not bad. We get straight Bs all across the board. That's pretty solid. Not too bad for team number 5. Bs all across the board. B for coverage, B for bulk, B for safety, B for consistency. Very solid overall. Let's have a look at these matchups here. So Walrein on the lead again, quite solid. Not as strong as it was pre-nerf, but still very strong and can still put in work nonetheless. You were just swapping out on basically the Regis and the Cobalion leads. Cresselia, you're not going to want to stay in there too long. That's going to be the biggest obstacle, especially running it in this alignment leading Walrein, because most Cresselias will be running the Legacy Grass Knot, which of course can hit you for super effective, but Walrein quite bulky in this meta. You definitely tank a Grass Knot. You'll want to chip with a couple of Icicle Spears and then make the play into Cobalion. If you're really good and really skilled, you'll catch the Grass Knot onto Cobalion. That's ideally how you'll want to play it. And you don't want to go into your hardest counter. Your hardest counter is by far Gliscor. So yeah, you'll chip with a couple of Icicle Spears. That's how I would play it. Or you can chip with one EQ and maybe an Icicle Spear. But then at that point, you're going to have to tank more than one Grass Knot or give up a shield, and that's the territory that you really don't want to have to get into early on, giving up early shields. So I think the safer play, chip with 2 Icicle Spears. That's going to do more raw damage overall anyway, and then eventually make the play into Cobalion. Again, if you're really good and skilled, know your counts, catch that Grass Knot on the Cobalion. That's ideally how you want to play it. Jellicent can be a bit problematic, but you can still do quite well. That's one that you'll want to play out. That's not one that you can easily, although Gliscor I think is your best answer, but Jellicent got quite an update, got access to Surf. That makes the Gliscor matchup a little trickier. So to play it safe, that's one that you're just going to have to soft lose lead on. Unfortunately, a Jellicent lead. And then look to come in with Gliscor. That's the safest way to play it. And then everything else pretty straightforward. I wanted to really protect Walrein from the Obstagoons and Scrafties of the world. Those are going to be the 2 most common counter users, as well as Cobalion. Both of the Cobalion has very good up against Obstagoon and Scrafty, but in a mirror, yeah, you're going to kind of have to go into your own Cobalion and look to just play that out and play on from there. Everything else pretty straightforward. Walrein very solid overall on the lead. You're going to pick up a lot of Giratinas, pick up a lot of Flyers. Walrein's going to have a fun time up against those. So that about wraps it up. That is team number 5. Walrein on the lead, Cobalion on the safe swap, and Gliscor in the back. You want to protect those back two from the Swamperts first and foremost. Draw that if that's basically what you're targeting. Swampert and Swampert. Tapu Fini to a lesser extent. But Gliscor does not have a fun time up against Swampert. So if you can draw that out with Cobalion, put in as much work as you can come in, take it out with Walrein, and that'll set Gliscor up to have the most success. So yeah, that about wraps it up, my friends. Those are my top 5 best teams for the Ultra League. For those of us who choose to participate, wanted to give you some solid teams to work with, and should be a lot of fun. Ultra League, it is what it is. You either love it or you hate it. So with all that said, guys, I had a blast. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, I thank you for watching, and keep up the grind. Thank you, guys.